PM. Membership of the Cabinet. We've got a few members who aren't here. I've got apologies from Councillor Carol Patterson and Councillor Mus Khan and Councillor Naheed Mather. They may join us later on. I think they're just delayed in the traffic. Item 2, Declaration of Interest. If there's any members who have got any interest, please complete the forms and hand them in at the end of the meeting to Andrea. Admission of the public. There are no public that I can see.
There's no public present.
Okay. Deputations of petitions. There is no public, so there is no deputation of petitions. Any members got any deputations of petitions? No. Questions by members of the public. There are no members of the public, so there are no questions from them. Item 6, question by elected members. Councillor Armour, can you hear me? You've got a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Leader. In recent years in my ward of Kirkburton, we've witnessed 2 unauthorised encampments by members of the travelling community, one of which was on a Kirklees play area. Given recent changes to the law relating to such encampments, in what ways has the Council revised its policies, especially in liaising with police to regain early possession of KMC land?
Bill, I'm really sorry. I know it's regarding travellers' sites and the law change. Can you just repeat that question, because the line is quite bad? Sorry?
Right.
Yeah. Bill, have you got a headset?
Yes, so far.
Yeah, you want to try with your headset? It might be a bit clearer.
I don't think it makes much difference, but let's see.
Right, Bill, try again, please.
Is that any better? Is that better? Is that better? Hello?
Yeah, it is. Carry on.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear us? Can you hear?
You've got me now, have you?
Yes, we have. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right, we can hear you loud and clear, Bill. It's a lot better.
Right, well, thank you. In recent years in Kirkburton ward, we've witnessed 2 unauthorised encampments by members of the travelling community, one of which was on a Kirklees play area. Given recent changes to the law relating to such encampments, in what ways has the Council revised its policies, especially in liaising with police to regain early possession of KMC land?
Thank you, Councillor Armour. I'm looking round. Councillor Paul Davies will answer that for you. Councillor Paul Davies, over to you.
Thanks, Councillor Armour. Yeah, we've had, certainly in the last, I think, probably 6 or 7 weeks, a few issues with regards to encampments, and we've worked with the police and resolved those issues. It's true that, as you say, there's been some revisions in terms of the law. However, as I've relayed on a number of other occasions, we still have to follow particular policies, particularly around safeguarding, before we take action, and the police continue to operate in partnership with us. The police certainly have not changed their approach with regard to that as well. In terms of our policies, I'm not, I have to say, aware that we've revised our policies, or certainly have not been informed of that. But what I will do is I will follow up on that with the relevant team to see if we've made any particular changes. Certainly, as I said, as the approach we take is certainly robust, but it does involve us ensuring that we're acting in a proper fashion in terms of health and safety and safeguarding, and the police very much appreciate that approach as well. But I will follow up on that, Councillor Armour. I will check to see if there's been any changes to our internal policies in relation to that external legislation as well.
Thank you, Councillor
yes,
Davis.
thank you.
Councillor Viv Kendrick, do you want to come in?
Do we have a supplementary, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, just 1 minute, Bill. I'll bring you in a minute. Councillor Viv Kendricks just wants to add 1 or 2 things. Viv, over to you.
Oh, my apologies. my
Really,
apologies.
just talking about an experience in my own ward in Hetman White. We recently had such an encampment, and the welfare visits were done, but officers and the police used the new regulations. It doesn't require us to change our policy. It is just using the new regulations, and the encampment was moved on faster than I've ever known before. So it is used by officers and the police together in a proper safeguarded way.
Thank you,
Bill.
for that.
Bill, have you got a supplementary?
Yes, please. Given the problems that still follow with these encampments, I would suggest that prevention is much better than cure. I was just wondering what steps are taken by various departments, particularly when they've been cutting grass, to ensure that areas are properly secured when they're finished. I do have an area that was not secured.
Thanks, Bill. Councillor Davis, did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. Certainly in terms of green spaces, I can't really give any information on that because it doesn't sit within my portfolio area, but I can certainly find out. I think just to comment on Councillor Kendrick, she's right where she's, that's my understanding of where we are in terms of the legislation. But there may well be a further review of our internal policies, as I said earlier, but certainly the reported incidents I had over the last 6-7 weeks, we've been able to resolve, as Councillor Kendrick said. In terms of prevention, that's, as I say, certainly that in terms of access, etc., that does sit sort of partially with my portfolio, but obviously with green space as well. The only thing I can comment is I know that as soon as there's reports of any gates, etc., being damaged, they're repaired as soon as possible. But if there are specific locations where Councillor Armour believes that we could act in a better way in terms of prevention, in terms of access and barring access, etc., more than happy to have that discussion, or if you could send me some information, I can follow up on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paul Davis. Councillor Firth, did you want to come in?
I do, Chair. Leader, what might be useful, because I'm unaware of the recent legislation regarding travellers, it would be useful to have a note circulated, because in the past we have had a lot of encampments in Dewsbury East. None for now, no, late. I'm touching wood now. But it might be useful to us all to be aware of the new legislation.
Right, we will make some arrangements to get that out as soon as practically possible. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Armour, for your question. Any more questions from Councillor David Hall? David, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I was hoping Councillor Mather might be here because it's really a question for her portfolio, but one of you might be able to help me. And it's to do with the bus changes that have been announced over the past week or two. And my ward has been particularly heavily affected by the cancellation of some routes and changes to other and the frequencies of the buses and stuff. And I just wondered whether Kirklees at any level had been consulted about any of these changes, because certainly the public don't seem to have been consulted.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. We were consulted. We discussed this item at the Combined Authority last week, I think, or the week before, because we aren't the only local authority that's actually been impacted by the cuts in services. Though the 4 local authorities, Leeds, Bradford, Wakefield and Calderdale, they've all had an adverse impact on service cuts. And it was just today that I actually gave an update on behalf of Tracy at the LEP board. We managed to get the bus recovery grant extended. The government quite rightly extended it because the bus patronage was falling on the back of the pandemic, because people are still trying to get back onto buses, and the capacity is still well below what we would expected. So that was the reason for the money that government gave. But what's happened is the bus companies have taken this money, but rather than actually make sure that the operations carry on, a lot of them actually have cut their services for one reason or another, and that's really not what the money was there for. So I know that Tracy's office and through the Transport Committee, they are lobbying the bus companies very, very hard, very strongly. If a bus company withdraw the service and then we've got to put the tender back out, we will make sure that the bus company that actually withdrew can't put another tender in, because, you know, they're trying to actually sort of have the cake and eat it, sort of speaking. But it is something that actually is very, very serious, because giving the money and then cutting the services just don't add up. And it's very, very clear that the bus companies are putting profits before public services. And that's where we need to have a wider conversation regarding the transport infrastructure and the transport service throughout this authority and a lot of other northern authorities as well. But it's not just Kirklees, David, it's across West Yorkshire. But we will keep on making sure that we put pressure on and work with government to make sure that we actually do get that bus service back into operation and improve the services, not cut them. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. But just to say, really, I wonder whether you could suggest a way that I could put pressure on anybody about this, because it's getting to be a growing issue now, is this? And if we're not careful, we're going to have these lovely £2 bus fares, which is great, but I've got no buses either. So it doesn't really help anybody. And they're putting more frequent buses on, but you're having to walk twice as far to get to one, which for the elderly people in some of the more rural parts of my ward isn't much of an option. So if you can just suggest to me how I might be able to lobby and who I might be able to lobby, I'll certainly do that. And if you'll join me, I'd be very grateful.
Yeah, no, that's really welcome, David. What I'll do is, when Tracy's back and when I think, I'm meeting leaders tomorrow morning, we've got a leaders meeting. I'll raise it that, you know, the Conservative leader of Kirklees is more than happy to lobby whoever needs lobbying, and if we can get that across the piece through West Yorkshire, we'll see what we can do. But that's really welcome. Thank you very much. Any more questions from councillors? Item 7 is Communities Partnership Plan 2022-27. This is an item that falls under Councillor Carol Patterson's portfolio, but because the meeting was moved from yesterday to today, she's had another engagement, so she's asked me to move the item. I don't have the same detail in terms of the working detail around this plan, but I do know that on item 12, I think is in the report. Let's have a quick look. Item 7, sorry, under the report, there's some recommendations. Is it item 7, is it?
Recommendations are page 10.
Page 10, sorry, yeah. The recommendation item 12 under page 10, that we adopt this Communities Partnerships Plan. This will be going to full council, won't it? Yeah, so we will be able to have a full debate there. I don't want to talk too much about it because she's gave me a spiel, but it'll take me about 10 minutes to actually go through this. Unless somebody's got some questions, right, yeah? It's a very good briefing, Jill, by the way. So, you know, when I say spiel, I didn't mean that in a negative way. But it is going to full council meeting, and I'm sure we'll have a big debate about that. But I don't want to, I just want to move the recommendations with a view to taking it through to full council. Any second on that? Thank you. Any questions on that? No. We'll move to the next item. That's, can we have a quick show of hands? Right. Okay. Thank you, members. Item 8 is Kirklees Social Value Policy. Councillor Paul Davis, it's your item. Do you want to move that, please? Thank you.
I'm certainly not going to be able to beat that in terms of timing, so I'll try and keep it concise as well. This is a very important policy. Certainly for me and the officers who've been working on this, it's right at the heart of what we're about as an administration and as a council. It is our new social value policy. It replaces the social value policy statement which was adopted back in 2013, and it actually puts down a milestone in our journey to achieving social value for residents and businesses of Kirklees, as well as for our environment. So it's pretty much all-encompassing in that regard. And the way we look at social value is as a broad set of economic, social and environmental benefits that may be delivered in addition to the original goods or service being provided. And I think that's the important point. This is in addition to what any other benefits we achieve, economic in particular, and levels of services otherwise. Social value may include jobs and training, support of local businesses and community organisations, and as I said earlier, support in terms of our climate change agenda and our environment. These benefits may be delivered through procurement. We focus a lot on procurement, and certainly prior to this, the key focus was around procurement, but this is much broader. It actually looks at how we can use our employment practices, grants, investments and other processes to help us achieve social value for our citizens and overall for businesses throughout Kirklees. It is very much a key lever when it comes to the inclusive economy approach, which is again central to us, our plans as an administration, as a council. And one thing I'll emphasise is that what we're doing now in the work that we've been doing and continue to do in this policy is working very closely with our partners in the third sector. So third sector leaders have been very much part of this discussion. Also, maximising social value is one of the principles of the Cooperative Council's Innovation Network, and we're a member of that network, and the leader is actually part of the Executive Oversight Committee on that network. The policy, as you'll see, sets out how we achieve social value, as I've said earlier, not just through commission and procurement, but also, again, emphasised within our employment practices, commissioning services beginning at the design stage, so very much at the early part of the process, not at the back end of the process, but really right at the front end. Again, certainly does include procurement of all goods, services and work contracts within a value requiring a formal tender process. So clearly there are limits. We're not applying this to, very small contracts. I've been doing a lot of work along with both David Shepherd and David Glover sat across there in terms of the social value that we would like to see coming from the Cultural Heart programme, and some really good discussions and some good suggestions coming through from that work. Also, there are discretionary grants to businesses and voluntary sector organisations. There can be non-treasury investments, including shares, loans and property. And also, social value applies to aspects of transferring assets to community groups. And finally, an area which is quite significant and quite a difficult area to influence is planning and development. So clearly we want to work with developers on this as well. A lot of these areas I've already mentioned already have their own documents and policies which are expressing social value aspects, but what this does is bring it together obviously in one policy. There certainly is a very clear connection between this and the draft procurement strategy, which will come to Cabinet in October, so we'll see that connection there. And we've already had a discussion at corporate scrutiny around social value, and a number of comments, suggestions have been looked at and incorporated as well. The policy articulates how these various, the strategy, how they pull together, how within the policy we pull together the way in which we want to deliver social value. And key within that is actually upskilling our officers. So this isn't just about putting in place processes and procedures, it's also about setting up a situation where our officers in key areas are fully aware of what we mean by social value and fully equipped to start to look at how they can attain social value in all of our directorates. So this is very much a holistic approach. And that's certainly driving us much further forward than we were previously. And in this way, the policy is probably one of the most ambitious that exists within the UK at the moment. And it's good to see that, I think people have said to me in the past, Kirklees led the way in many innovative approaches, and I think this is an area which we can be really proud of what we are driving and what we're seeking to achieve. And I'll emphasise finally, this is the policy, but clearly it links into achieve deliverables and outcomes within directorates. This is not just about a set of words, and I'll go back to the discussions on the cultural heart. That's very much about achieving measurable outcomes that can be measured, in a whole range of ways, whether it's financial, jobs, business development, etc. So the whole aim of this policy is not to create a nice, cosy discussion, it's to actually influence directorates so that we can achieve real gains for our citizens. Next steps, just to make you aware, we will identify the directorate social value leads this month, and that's going on at the moment. Also, we'll deliver the training, the social value training and action learning programme in Q3, and then complete development of the social value guidance in Q4. And I would ask Cabinet to approve the draft policy in order that we can move this further forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Davies. I'd like to second that. Any comments or questions, members? No? Councillor Kendrick, put your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. This isn't a suggestion about in any way changing the policy, and I very much welcome it. And I note the things about discretionary grants to community groups and so on, and about asset transfers. But there is a sort of middling line I hope that services will consider, where a community group or group of residents need a permission to do something. In my ward, it was a permission to do some gardening in a particular place that was council land. They don't want an asset transfer. They're not a big enough group to take on that role. But that midway line, I hope that services will consider. And I've lots of cases where permissions have been sought. They have all been granted, but some of them have taken rather a long time.
Yeah, the man said yes. Okay, can we have a show of hands to agree that report, members? Thank you very much. That's carried. Item 9, Community Plus Investment Scheme, Do Something Now, amendments. Councillor Khan, over to you.
Thank you, Leader. This report, it looks for Cabinet's approval for these amendments to the existing scheme, which invests in community activities delivered by community organisations in the KVCS sector. That's Kirklees Voluntary Community Social Enterprise sector. Partners and VCSE sector have given a really clear and strong view that this change will support meeting the gaps in current funding scope, ensuring fairer and more equitable distribution of funds, and it will support our VCSE sector and in turn support communities and some of the pressures they face during the cost of living crisis. The proposed amendments, they're listed on pages 108 to 112, and the current cost of living crisis is not only impacting on individuals and businesses, but our VCSE sector are feeling the pressure, financial pressure too, including increased demand for support within our communities. This grant funding resource provided directly into communities will help ease some of the current difficulties faced by our communities in Kirklees.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Anybody seconding that? I will be happy has seconded that. Any comments or questions on that report? No questions or comments. Can we have a show of hands to approve that? Thank you, members. We'll move on to item 10, which is Resource and Waste Strategy Delivery Update. Councillor Will Simpson, over to you.
Thank you very much, Leader. Thank you very much, colleagues. Nice to see you all this evening. Across parties, we all welcomed the development of the waste strategy last year, which plays a huge part in our vision for Kirklees. Since it was adopted, we've not stood still, but we've continued to deliver on our commitments, and that's included delivering 36 food waste workshops within our communities, which is helping people at a time of financial challenge. Developing and working with a network of 62 recycling champions within our communities, launching a very successful new schools and trade waste recycling service, which has over 120 schools and 270 businesses signed up at the moment in time, and that continues to grow week on week. And the new service has provided an additional 305 tonnes of recycling material in its first year. We're collecting reusable items at our household waste sites with over 70 tonnes collected already. As we all know and much celebrated, we've introduced pots, tubs and trays into our green bin recycling service. We're launching a new discounted composting scheme to ensure that everyone's able to make more sustainable choices at home. And we're launching launched a new bulky bookable waste service that's seen over 90% of customers giving it 4 or 5 star ratings, which has much improved the service, and I know it's been appreciated in my own ward, as I hope it has across others as well. The report that we have now in front of us is looking to secure funding for the next phase of continuing to deliver on the commitments that we've made. And as a result of this funding, we're hoping to achieve a community reward scheme where we'll be able to look to reward and incentivise our communities to support the delivery of the strategy, deliver a reuse shop in Huddersfield to close the loop for items that are collected from our household waste site, with items being sold at low prices so that communities can get affordable furniture, electrical items and clothing and things that might otherwise be out of reach for some residents. It's going to improve litter bin facilities and we'll be reviewing on-the-go recycling and new technologies to see how we can capture and recycle as much litter as possible across the district. It's about introducing the glass collection trial to understand how we can try to make this work for residents in Kirklees and targeting the council's trade waste customers as well. It's going to help us move to develop the next phase of improvements to our bulky collections and work with the third sector reuse partner to reuse items, and it'll help us to plan for the future and review our depot facilities to ensure that we have the right infrastructure to develop our services. This has been through our cross-party member reference group on waste and has received some really helpful support and feedback there as well, so I hope it'll be supported and I'd like to move it. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. It's good to hear that this has been through the cross-party working group, and I remember that we did get some good comments when we had a discussion about this last time. Councillor David Hall.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Just to add my support, top level of my party to this, because I think we are behind it. And there was just a couple of questions in there. First of all, I was going to say I really welcome the bit in paragraph 2.4, which is about the new and innovative technologies to reduce environmental crime and the tipping and all that, because it has got to a point now where it's really, really bad. And I think people will be encouraged if we say we're going to look into ways that we can prevent fly tipping and catch people that do it. So I really welcome that. But I'm just going to ask you 2 questions. The first is on the improved litter bin facilities. How far are we through either phase 1 or phase 2 of that? Because it says for delivery in 22. And the other one was the glass collection trial. It says it's going to be done in about 200 sites across all wards. So when will the ward councillors be informed of what's going to happen where, just so that if residents start questioning us, we know what's going on? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Simpson, you want to answer them 2 questions, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Shabir, and thank you for your support, David, and thank you for your questions. It's nice to see you. The litter bin review is ongoing. It's going at a good pace, so we still hope that we'll be able to deliver it on the timescale that we've committed to. But on both, in answer to both of your questions, the glass recycling trial as well, we've got our ward meetings upcoming where officers will be speaking to ward councillors, and I think services like these are particularly things that on an operational level councillors really care about because it's so public facing. It's the sort of thing that we get a lot of questions about, so I think it'd be a good forum to update there and discuss that with the ward councillors. So I'll ask officers to make sure that you have an opportunity to ask some questions and reflect on that there, and I hope that's helpful.
Right, excellent. Have we got a supplementary, David? No. Any more questions, members? No. Can we have a quick show of hands to approve that report, members? Thank you very much. That's carried. Item 11, hot food takeaway supplementary planning document. Councillor Graham Turner, over to you.
Chair, thank you. You don't need me to tell you that we have a problem with obesity in this country. And I might even be the wrong person to present this report, given my own slight weight problems. We often talk about the ticking time bombs in health. Well, obesity is definitely one of those. Obesity kills people, it reduces life expectancy and increases ill health. The real ticking time bomb is our young people. We see far too many children overweight or obese. Obese children face a lifetime of poor health and premature death, and the long-term cost to an NHS already close to breaking point is incalculable. One of the identified causes of obesity is the rise of takeaways. Of course, takeaways are not the only factor in the rise of obesity, but they are a factor. Having said that, not all takeaways are bad. Takeaways are also connected to the rise in obesity in children, as they tend to be more prevalent in our more deprived areas, where we see more childhood obesity. We don't have a silver bullet in tackling the obesity problem, but we do have some power through the planning system to help address this serious and growing problem. And that is what this report and recommendations aim to do. So, Chair, I ask Cabinet to approve this report and the implementation of the supplementary planning document contained in it.
Thank you, members. Councillor Khan, do you want to second it or do you want to speak on it? Yeah, go on, over to you.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to add the main purpose of this SPD is to influence fast food businesses to provide more healthy menu options. It's not just about restricting the number of hot food outlets concentrated in particular areas or clustered around schools. It's an attempt to influence what they have to offer the public with the view to improving health and well-being of Kirklees residents. And we can tackle health inequalities by creating healthier environments where the easiest lifestyle choice is a healthy choice. By encouraging businesses to offer more healthy menus and normalising healthier eating, we can increase life expectancy and reduce the risk of serious illness in Kirklees. But just in response to what Councillor Turner was saying, you can be thin and still be incredibly unhealthy, because health is more than just about weight, you know, in terms of blood pressure, cholesterol levels, blood sugars and stuff. But we know that diet is a key contributing factor to these indicators of serious problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cathy Scott. You got your hand up.
Can I just say to Councillor Turner, I welcome this report. It's good to see, but we've not to lose sight of a lot of the fast food takeaways are cheaper, and it's cheaper for people to access because supermarkets and their prices are not cheap. Healthy products are expensive, and until we change our mindset in lobbying people to ensure that things are affordable for the typical family out there. If you're going shopping now at the moment, this crisis that we've got, cost of living crisis, you'll have seen a massive increase in household goods and products and things. So takeaways are becoming the go-to places even more. The increase now is even more because it's cheaper for them to go to, say, a fish and chip shop, and you can buy a portion that will serve between a family, sometimes you're finding. So I just think that we've got to be mindful, whilst I support this, and we're talking about healthy options, some of these places are the only places for people where the affordability is now. So it's recognising that too. But thanks for the report, great report.
Thank you, Councillor Cathy Scott. Any more comments? Graham, do you want to come back in? Or?
I was just going to say that Cathy's right, because that's the evidence, as you've seen in the document, where we have levels of deprivation that the obesity and probably related to takeaways is the highest. So it is that cheap poor quality food that's not helping in this, and that's hopefully this will address some of that. And Cathy rightly points out it won't address all of it, but it's a start, and it's a meaningful start as we try and tackle this problem. But the wider issues about available food through supermarkets, etc., is something that obviously we can't control, but it does need addressing, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Councillor Turner and councillors. Can we have a show of hands to approve the report? Thank you, members. That's been carried. Item 12, Huddersfield Decentralisation Energy Network, outline business case approval. Now, Councillor Naheed is not here, and I understand that Will, she's asked you to move this in her absence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. My good officer clerk had just reminded me. This item has also got a private appendices in yellow pages. I'm assuming that all members have seen that and read it before we actually make a decision on this. Yes, thank you very much. Will, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shabir. I also took this through scrutiny in Naheed's absence, so I'll try not to repeat myself too. I'll try not to repeat myself too much. I'm really pleased to be moving this at today's cabinet. As I said at scrutiny, I think we've been talking about the HDEN for quite a long time. It's been an ambition of the councils, but I feel that we've made more progress over the last 12 months towards getting to the true delivery of it than we have at any other period, and that's really exciting. It's going to make a considerable contribution to decarbonising the town centre and the energy source that we get from there, and providing some domestic energy security as well, which is obviously a really important thing, not in national politics at the moment. So it's a really exciting proposal. I'm really excited to see it delivered. We've got to go through the government's timescales and gateways, but they have been the heat network delivery unit in the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy have been a really good partner for us so far, and I hope that will continue under the new leadership that the government has, because we have a really good partnership working together. They've identified Huddersfield as one of their most exciting projects, so hopefully we can continue to deliver it together. Thanks, Shabir.
Thank you very much, Councillor Simpson. I'd like to... Oh, Graham will second it. Go on, Graham, over to you.
Yeah, I'd like to second it, but also just add to what we all said. Some of us who've been around a bit will remember and how many iterations have we had of this attempt to get heat out of the down Leeds Road there at Emerald Street. So, but this does look like one that actually stacks up. I mean, previously they haven't stacked up. They've been too technically difficult. But this one generally looks like it stacks up. So it's really exciting that eventually we'll get all that waste energy into people's homes and business, etc. And the other important thing is, of course, we've seen recently, only too recently, the importance of being self-reliant as much as possible in energy supplies. We cannot and we should not be held to ransom by despots, dictators across the world. And I think this, whilst it won't feed the whole Huddersfield, obviously, it will give us some small reliance on our own energy supply. Gives us more chance to supply our own energy than having to rely on other countries. So much to be welcomed, and I hope we can hit the timescales are ambitious, but I hope we can hit them and get this up and running as soon as possible, because it's a fantastic project and will benefit all the residents of Huddersfield.
Thank you, Councillor Graham Turner and Councillor Will Simpson. Any more members want to speak on this item? No. Thank you very much, members. Can we have a show of hands to approve the report? That's been approved. Item 13, again, there's some private papers in the yellow pages. I'm assuming that all members have read this. Item 13, delivering the Cultural Heart Gateway 2 outline business case. Councillor Turner, over to you.
Chair, thank you. This is a rather lengthy and detailed report on the next phase of the Cultural Heart project. And firstly, I must thank all those involved in producing it and for all the hard work that has gone on to enable us to get to this point, including my ex-colleague, Councillor McBride. As we well know, times have changed, shopping habits have changed, and how people spend their leisure time has also changed. The way people see and use town centres has changed to reflect this changing world. So we now must change our town centres. Doing nothing is not an option, as we will see our town centre slowly decline in the face of our changing society. The cultural heart is a centrepiece of the Huddersfield Blueprint, which will reform and regenerate Huddersfield over the next 10 years. But we can't just look at this in isolation, as it forms part of the blueprint, and will encourage town centre living, attract more inward investment from the private sector, some of which we are already seeing right now with Network Rail, the university and the Combined Authority all investing in our town. We don't need reminding that times are tough and could get tougher, but we must be brave and start to transform our great town for the next generation. We've been through tough times before, and the one thing we know is that the economy will recover. The trick is knowing when. Sadly, my crystal ball is broken at the moment, but it will recover. If we don't progress to the next stage, then what have we to show for all the hard work and money that has gone into getting us to this stage? Nothing, just a town slowly declining. I can assure our residents and elected members that I will be working very closely with David and the team to make sure that we can act on any change in circumstances. And that's why we're using the gateway method, as it allows us to make changes and be flexible should we feel the need. We are currently on budget and target, and we will continue to monitor this all the way through this process. Cabinet remains in control of the decision process and are updated on a regular basis. We have done several consultations which have shown considerable support for the plans we have. Of course, there are naysayers, but the majority of those who responded want to see us get on with the project. Since taking over responsibility from the project from ex-Councillor McBride, I have made every effort to talk to those who have a vested interest in the blueprint, and many of the groups that don't necessarily have a vested interest but an opinion on our plans. And the feedback I've had is, you've talked about this for long enough, get on with it. And they might be right, but a huge amount of work has to be done before we can get a shovel in the ground. And a lot of this has now been done, and we can now look at submitting a planning application shortly. This report sets out clearly the business case for moving towards the next gateway in the Cultural Heart project. Chair, I ask Cabinet to accept this report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Graham Turner. I'd like to second that report and also add my thanks to all the immense work that's been going on behind the scenes. And Graham, a few points you mentioned, we're going to take a cautious, prudent and careful approach to this. And that's why Gateway 3 is what it is in terms of the amount of money we can commit at this stage. And each stage will be carefully considered. We need to still be ambitious with our plans, but at the same time we need to be careful. What I'll do is if there's any questions or comments from any of the Cabinet members or any of the councillors, I'm happy to take them. Councillor Firth, then Councillor Simpson, and then Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second this motion, but I'd also like to speak on briefly on how wonderful this is, which demonstrates not only our vision, but our ambition. And not just for the Cultural Heart, but the rest of Kirklees. This will be spread out through Dewsbury and all the small towns. And we must continue this for all the people of Kirklees to benefit from this regeneration. And as I said, our ambition and our vision.
Thank you, Councillor Firth. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you very much, Leader. I know that you seconded it, and then Eric said that he wanted to second it, so I'd also like to second it. And I just want to put on record my thanks to David and the team and everyone involved, because you just have to look at the report to know that an immense amount of work goes into this. And just to sort of reflect on what you've said, Leader, particularly what Graham said, that we know that people are impatient for change, and we're impatient as well, and we're ambitious, but as you've said, we need to be responsible about this as well, because we've got a real issue caused by the cost of living crisis, and we need to make sure that we deliver that change and deliver the ambition that we've set out, and make sure that we do that in a way that we know that we're not going to get through a programme. We are going to get to the end of a programme. We're not going to get halfway through a programme and not be able to deliver it, because we too are ambitious. We're impatient for the change. And it's just, as Eric said, so exciting to see that in front of us. And it's not just for Huddersfield, it's for all of Kirklees. And where we're doing it, we're putting culture at the heart. of Kirklees and making sure that we're adapting to the times, as Graham said. And I just think it's wonderful to have this with us. We've made some real progress, and I look forward to seeing it go further. So it has my full support, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor Simpson. Councillor Paul Davis.
Thank you, Leader. And certainly agree with the comments made so far. You've said many times, this is a fantastic initiative. I think it's critical for Kirklees, for our people within Kirklees. We know where we are at the moment in terms of the current crisis. We know that we have short-term plans and short-term actions to help our citizens, but this is absolutely part of our medium and long-term approach to create confidence within Kirklees and confidence to bring in investment into Kirklees, particularly from the private sector. So this couldn't be more important in that regard. And you're right, Leader. We've got to do this in a way which is prudent, which is measured, but also with that right momentum and ambition to make it happen. And I'm confident we're doing that at the moment. Certainly the gateway process and the fantastic work that both Davids are doing in driving the programme forward ensures that's the case as well. I'm sure we will come back at some point to review. Well, we will definitely come back at some point in gateways, but we'll come back ourselves to talk and review of the progress, and we'll look at the more fundamental and formal reviews through the actual gateway process itself. But I think for me, this is something which is providing and should provide going forward some hope for our communities at the commitment that we have as a council and as an administration to continue to invest within Kirklees. Once again, thanks to the officers for the great work so far. There's a long way to go and lots of hard work. I'm sure both Davids will spend quite a bit of time pondering over various things in this. And I'll add again, from the social value perspective, this is a fantastic opportunity to actually embed social value approach, which is going to show really sort of tangible benefits. In particular, we believe for our third sector going forward. So, yep, absolutely support this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Paul Davis. Councillor Cathy Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Long-term investment in the town centre is critical for us here in Kirklees. It helps us to develop the economic prosperity in Kirklees and prevent this reoccurring cost of living crisis that we're having on the high street in itself. So we have strong ambitions for the cultural heart and we want to progress it. And I think what's good about this is we are being prudent. We're using a gateway approach. It allows us to review each stage and it ensures that we are making decisions that reflect the economic climate and reflect stakeholders and citizens' feedback. And that's crucial. Yes, it will be delivered over a time period, but it ensures that we're being prudent. And I think that's what people need to know out there, that we are being prudent and we're doing it in a gateway approach. And as Councillor Firth did say, it's across Kirklees. It's not just about the cultural heart. And this is the approach that we will be using.
Thank you very much, members. Any more comments, questions from any member? You want to come back in, Graham?
Yeah, just to thank colleagues for their support in this project. It is really exciting. It's going to be something that we can all rightly be proud of. For everybody who's going to be, has been, will be involved in it. It is going to be something that is genuinely will change the face of Huddersfield and Kirklees, because this is not just our attraction. This is, the Kirklees White, so it will be a fantastic addition to the to Kirklees. And much has been said about the issues around finances. Those of you who know me and know me well enough knows that there is no way I will spend a penny more than is absolutely necessary, and even David's laughing. So, I'm the best Yorkshireman got. I've got really deep pockets and very, very short arms, as my wife will rightly tell you. So I can assure you that I will be looking after every penny, and as I used to when I used to work in private sector, every penny will be a prisoner. So we will make sure that we don't put the council under any excess financial stress. there will be obviously big payments to come at some point, but it will not endanger this council. We will not make other services suffer because we're going to do this. We will keep a very, very close eye on that, won't we, David?
Okay, thank you very much, members, for all your input. And anybody who knows Graham, right? Yeah, you know, he's not joking. You know, he's a Yorkshireman, and you know, he's a true Yorkshireman. And when you go out for a drink with him, you know, try and get him to buy a pint. He might buy you a pint. But anyway, are we all okay to approve this commission? Have a show of hands, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, members. And that's the end of the meeting tonight. And good night and God bless. And Will said to me that tonight, and good night and God bless is good night and God bless, because it's now 6:20. Thank you very much, members. Bye-bye.